Third Baruch says a vast phoenix lives in the sun's heavenly realm, where Baruch watches it move before the rising sun at the fourth heaven and spread its wings across the solar fire to keep every creature on earth alive. Yet the excluded text leaves one disturbing question. What living body could take that fire all day and survive? If suppressed history and the texts they removed from Scripture are what you came for, subscribe right now and hit the bell. This channel goes straight to the manuscripts and the fragment numbers mainstream scholarship never connects. Now, let's go deeper. That scene is the actual claim preserved in Third Baruch. It is not a modern embellishment. The work was excluded from the biblical canon, although there is no sound basis for claiming that one church council formally banned it. It remained outside the collection of books most Christians received as scripture, surviving instead through manuscript traditions that carried its strange heavens forward. The source is known as the Greek Apocalypse of Baruch, also called 3 Baruch. It is a Jewish apocalypse transmitted later by Christian copyists and probably composed between the 1st to 3rd centuries CE, meaning the 1st to 3rd centuries of the Common Era. Its Baruch is guided upward by an interpreting angel who explains each new region as the layers of heaven open before them. The work survives principally in Greek and Church Slavonic manuscripts. Those versions do not match at every point. Their recensions differ in wording, length, and arrangement, which means individual details must be handled carefully. And this text must not be confused with Su Baruch, the unrelated Syriac apocalypse that also speaks in Baruch's name, but follows a different vision in manuscript history. As the ascent continues, Baruch passes through a structured cosmos. Every heaven has inhabitants, boundaries, and assigned functions. Then, chapters 6 to 8 bring him to the machinery and route of the sun. Here, the universe does not behave like empty space. Angels guide its order. Gates mark its movement, and directly before its fire, something alive is already waiting. Chapter 6 introduces an enormous bird. Baruch asks what it is, and the angel identifies it as the guardian of the earth. The creature travels alongside the sun. As the fiery rays surge forward, the bird stretches its wings across the solar path and receives them into itself. The angel's explanation is blunt. Without that barrier, humanity and the other living creatures below could not endure the sun's burning force. Hold that image in your mind. Living wings placed directly between the world below and the fire above. This is a living universe in which survival depends on a conscious creature accepting the impact. The phoenix is not simply circling the light. Its body is the shield, and every sunrise begins another passage into the flames. But chapter 6 withholds the cost. Baruch has seen the wings open and the fiery rays strike them. He has heard why the earth needs this guardian. Now ask the question Baruch's vision forces on us. What does that fire do to the creature carrying it? At evening, the answer comes back into Baruch's sight. The phoenix that received the sun's fire all day returns exhausted, with its wings hanging down, and chapter 7 does not hide the cost. At evening, Baruch watches the exhausted phoenix come back from the solar path. Its wings hang low. The guardian has spent the day receiving the fiery rays, and the heat has left a wound in living flesh. Then, the cycle begins again. The creature works, suffers, returns, and must rise once more. This is no decorative bird placed beside the sun. It is a worker inside the order of heaven. The Greek text names it phoenix, transliterated phoenix. That word has more than one possible meaning. It can name the legendary phoenix. It can also mean a palm tree or something connected with Phoenicia. But a dictionary cannot settle the scene by itself. The actions do. Read the name through the action. This being flies, spreads its wings, suffers heat, and returns exhausted. Whatever older meanings cling to phoenix, Third Baruch presents a living solar bird, not a botanical symbol. Second Enoch gives us another version of the same basic structure. There, the sun moves through eastern and western gates. Angels guide its journey and regulate its passage. The machinery differs, but the principle remains. The sun does not simply drift across an empty sky. Conscious beings keep it on its appointed route. One text gives us gates and angelic guides. Third, Baruch gives us wings stretched against lethal heat. Psalm 19 supplies the scriptural background. The sun comes from its chamber like a bridegroom and runs its course like a strong man. Its path has an order, a beginning and an end. The psalm speaks in poetry, but its sun belongs to a creation governed by appointment rather than autonomy. Early Christian tradition develops the phoenix in another direction. In the Physiologus, the bird becomes a sign of death and renewal. It dies and returns, making it useful as an image of resurrection. Third Baruch assigns a different task. Its phoenix protects terrestrial life. Its suffering is not merely a symbol of its own rebirth. The lowered wings show what it has absorbed for the beings below. The mainstream position calls this mythic cosmology, shaped by scriptural images of the sun and by phoenix lore already moving through the ancient world. That historical category is fair. Third Baruch is not a report of ancient astronomy, and its heavenly route is not a map of the physical star described by modern science. But the label leaves something untouched. The historical label may be correct, but does it account for the system the text has built? Across these sources, cosmic stability comes from conscious beings carrying assigned duties. The result is a living universe held together by labor. Before we move on, stop for a second. What you just heard is the part that changes everything, but it only makes sense written out next to the original notation. The passages, the chapter cross-references, the translated text, I put all of it into a written document. It's linked below, and the QR code is on your screen. Take 5 seconds, grab it, and come back, because what comes next builds directly on it, because the phoenix is only one moving piece. Chapter 8 now carries the vision beyond the phoenix's exhausted wings. When daylight ends, the sun enters its own nightly passage and renewal, and here the account becomes more unsettling. The condition of that solar journey responds to what human beings do below. Conduct on earth reaches into the mechanism above. The order of heaven does not behave like dead machinery. It records actions, bears consequences, and answers through living agents. Chapter 8 takes the next step. The sun completes its appointed course, enters the hidden passage of night, and is renewed before it rises again. But this renewal is tied to human conduct. What happens below reaches upward. The order of heaven registers moral consequence, so the returning light is part of a responsive cosmos, not a wheel turning in empty space. Human action leaves a mark on the route of the sun itself. This closes the question raised by Chapter 8. The sun has a route. Its route requires renewal. The phoenix has a task, and that task costs it strength. Above both stand assigned powers that keep the sequence moving. The exhausted phoenix, the nightly sun, and the consequences of human behavior belong to one inhabited hierarchy. Stability depends on each living agent doing what it has been given to do. In Third Baruch, cosmic order is maintained action by action. Listen closely to the claim itself, because this is the line the entire journey has been moving toward. The decisive sense of Third Baruch, Chapter 6, is this: the phoenix moves before the sun. It spreads its wings across the solar path and receives the fiery rays into them. The angel gives the reason without softening it. Without that shield, neither humanity nor any living creature could remain alive. That is the preserved answer. Living wings stand between the earth and solar fire. The evidentiary boundary matters here. The manuscript does not claim that a biological animal occupies the physical star described by modern astronomy. It places a living guardian within the sun's heavenly realm and along its ordained route. That distinction protects the text from a false reading while leaving its actual strangeness intact. Third Baruch means the phoenix is a real actor inside the cosmology the apocalypse describes. Interpretation begins after that line. Read beside Second Enoch and early Christian phoenix symbolism. The guardian can be understood as a boundary intelligence. It receives lethal divine fire at the edge where heaven meets the world of fields, animals, and human bodies. What passes through those feathers is no longer destruction, but life-giving light. The text does not use that phrase. This is our reading of the structure it preserves. Which reading carries more weight for you? Mythic symbol, cosmic guardian, or a boundary between the two? Across these traditions, the pattern is larger than one bird. The universe is inhabited. Its regions are ordered, and their order is maintained through mediation. Powers too intense for earthly life do not simply disappear. They are guided, carried, filtered, and restrained by conscious servants with appointed work. That is the force of a living universe. Survival depends on relationship between realms, not on dead machinery operating alone. In one text, an angel guides a gate. In another, a phoenix takes the rays across its own wings. The forms differ, but the role stays at the threshold. Heaven's force reaches the ground only after a living agent has handled it. That is why the phoenix's wounds matter. The shield is not an idea. It has a cost. Third Baruch remained outside the biblical canon, but exclusion did not erase its central image. Greek and Slavonic transmission carried it through different manuscripts, languages, and communities. What survived was a vision in which creation continues because something living accepts the heat that flesh below cannot bear. The page preserves the guardian's labor. The claim survives because readers kept copying it, and that leaves the image no canon could contain. Wings across the solar path, held open between earth and the fire. Tell me which source carries the most weight. Subscribe for the texts that survived outside the canon, and continue with the angels who operate the sun's gates in Second Enoch.